talking, let me play a little game to wake you up. I'm going to say one sentence, but before I say this sentence, I want you to make eye contact with one other person in the room. It could be somebody you know, somebody you don't. Just look them in the eye right now, play along, and here's what I want you to hear as you're looking at them. Over the next 5 years, half of all jobs will disappear. Now, each of you thought the other person's the one losing their job. But we are in a time of change that has never happened before. The pace of change is faster than we can adapt. And so I'm going to talk about what's causing that change and where we're going. So first, let me show you who's going to be taking those jobs. That's who's coming for your jobs. Those aren't real. Those are AI creations. Those are not photos of people. And AI is quickly going to be flattening corporate structure. No need for middle management reporting, no need for accounting, marketing. Most functions will be completely automated. And many industries are already facing this. So we all know about influencers and how popular they are in social media. Here is an influencer who makes more than $1 million US per month, traveling the world, showing products, and she doesn't exist. She's just AI. If she's not your type, here's another one, also making that kind of money. And it's not just happening in the States or in Europe. Here is the leading influencer in Pakistan, and she is not human either. All of these are AI. I come from Los Angeles, from Hollywood, and Hollywood went on strike for a whole year because actors didn't want to be replaced by AI, writers didn't want to be replaced by AI, but the train has left the station. There is nothing that will stop it. In China, for example, the #1 soap opera has an all-human cast except for her. She's the star, one of the biggest stars on television, and she doesn't exist. For half a century now, we've trusted video. We see it with our eyes, we hear it with our ears, and we know it's real, unless it's coming from Hollywood. But now with AI, you don't know who is actually speaking, what you're actually seeing, and what languages you can now speak.
半个世纪以来，我们一直相信视频，我们看到它，听到它，它是真实的，除非它来自好莱坞。Od pół wieku ufamy wideo, widzimy je naszymi oczami, słyszymy je naszymi uszami i wiemy.
So I'm your typical American. I only speak 2 languages, English and sarcasm. But now with AI, I can do interviews all over the world in the native language, completely lip-synced. And you'll see as I get into it later in the presentation, you'll now be able to, by the end of this year, there's product coming out, be able to wear glasses that will give you subtitles for 40 languages. Imagine that. You can understand and communicate with anyone. When those glasses come out, I suggest you buy 2 pair. Imagine you go off to that exotic location, you see the love of your life at the bar, you give them a pair of glasses to wear, and now you can communicate. So everything about how we work, live, and play is being disrupted. My goal today is to share with you not just what's changing and how it's changing, but to leave you with 5 techniques to make sure you thrive during this change. So let's talk about how the world has changed. The biggest hotel chain in the world has no hotels. The biggest taxi company has no cars. The biggest media company creates no media. Seeing a pattern here? The biggest retailer has 0 inventory. And the #1 employee, the smartest worker out there, is no longer human. What these all have in common is data. I'll repeat this again and again. Data is your best friend. Data has no ego. Data should be invited to every meeting. The only competitive advantage any company has in the 21st century is to get insights from their data faster than the competition. Because the pace of change is so fast, you have to get ahead of it. I talk a lot about disruption and what makes a disruptor, and I'll start off with a very simple example. A few years ago, for those that are young, there was dating before this, before swiping. And a decade or so ago, there was online dating. There'd be a picture of someone, you'd read about their bio, you'd email, and if you're young enough, maybe that's how you were born, okay? So 3 guys that I knew had a brilliant idea. Broadband was coming out. What if we make videos available? So it's not just a picture, you can see the personality. They built a beautiful website. It was called Tune In Hookup. They did everything right, great engineering, wonderful. This is the very first video put on that dating site, because nothing is sexier than a guy in front of an elephant at the zoo. Yep, that was the one problem they didn't see in their business plan. No one wanted to date these losers. But they looked at the data and they saw something that wasn't in the business plan. You may not want to date these people, but you sure want to show your friends how bad the pickings are. So you share those videos. So they changed the name of Tune In Hookup to YouTube and became billionaires their first year in business with 0 revenue. That's disruption. And you're going to be getting those types of insights in everything. So disruption isn't about what happens to you. It's how you respond to what happens to you. With all the change coming, the choice of how to act is always up to you. You're the one in charge of your life, no one else. So, how do you become a disruptor? How do you think like this? Just to humble all of us, there's a new billionaire created every 17 hours. Anybody make $1 billion yesterday? Bunch of slackers. Oh, there's one. So, what are they doing differently? How are they seeing the world in a way that you and I don't? And it's again about how you respond to disruption. So, I just flew here from the States. How many people have been at the airport when your flight gets canceled? Everybody. I won't even make you put your hands up. And what do? We sit there like there's no choice. Well, somebody that I used to work with had his flight canceled, and he sees all these people sitting around. He went over to see what it cost to charter a plane. He did the math so he and his girlfriend, now wife, could fly back for free. And that's how a music guy starts an airline. That was it. No business plan, no fundraising, an opportunity to figure out how to fly for free. And it seems so easy to him. Doing the rest of the airline should be easy. And so Richard has started over 300 companies, 8 of which became multi-billion-dollar successes. And it's all about looking at how to respond to change. So in the course of my career, I've been blessed to work with some of the most disruptive minds on the planet. I notice patterns of what they have in common, and I've spent the past decade paying it forward, teaching people how to do this. I taught at the university level. My best students did $100 million in a year. Pretty good. But there is so much capital, and we're all one click away from each other, that you only have to be right for a nanosecond to make a bunch of money or change the world. And billionaires are getting younger and younger. You see here, each one of these seem to be as young as could be, and these are all self-made, but even in Italy, you have one of the youngest of all time. He inherited it, that makes it easier, but it's still there. And as baby boomer, my generation, disappears, there will be the largest transfer of wealth in the history of the world. Moving money is an opportunity to make money and build your business. So here's the 3 technologies that we're going to focus on. One is augmented, being able to have heads-up display in all our waking hours, no longer bending over a phone, having our world augmented to talk to us, to communicate, to simplify, to help us. The second is 3D printing. We all know of it from making plastic, but you can 3D print human organs, you can 3D print tissues, cornea, metal, food, and AI. AI is what's tying all of these transformative technologies at once. So AI is what we see, but what's driving it is 5G, cloud computing, 3D printing, and we're on the verge of quantum computing. For those not following it, let me make it a priority in your mindset. The day after there's quantum computing, no passwords, no encryption work. So if a negative actor or a nation state gets there first, you could wake up and no bank has any balance, no stock exchange exists, no electrical grid will work. Yeah, that's major change. And then nanobots are very small technology that can now go inside us and cure things and solve things. So it's an exciting thing. But the thing I want you to know about AI is that business as usual is dead. What got you to where you are will not get you through the next 5 or 10 years. What made your company successful before will not make your company successful in the future. And Oxford did a study saying 47% of jobs were going to be impacted. I spoke at Davos this year, and before I spoke, the head of the World Monetary Fund spoke and said 40% of all jobs were going to be impacted in the next 2 years. So this isn't a crazy person talking, this is every organization. And there are a lot of people that say, well, I have a safe job, I'm with a steady company, I took the safe route, I don't have to worry. Well, of the original Fortune 500 companies, less than 10% are still around. And the ones that have survived are the ones that are making products they didn't make before. Apple, a multi-trillion-dollar company, is a failed computer company. They never got double-digit penetration in the PC market. So Steve looked at consumer electronics and went after the Walkman. Did great with that. He saw the phone. Nokia had nearly 50% of the world market. iPhone comes along, changes that. So all of these companies that constantly innovate and constantly change. But the change is beyond what we're used to. Everything that was physical is going to dematerialize. So, flashback, this is my desk in college. Everything on that was made in a factory, shipped on a ship, trucked on a truck, stocked on a shelf, and bought at a retail store. And one by one, all of those things have become ones and zeros. And with that, so many jobs changed. Now, the digital revolution launched tons of new careers in marketing, in social media, and all of that. AI is not a job creator. AI is a job replacer. So the first wave of automation was replacing unskilled labor. Let's put robots in a factory. Let's put robots. And as you raise wages, in the US, we've raised minimum wage very high. So now there is a McDonald's not far from my house that has 0 employees. It is completely automated. The cooks, the ordering, everything. Foxconn, which makes your iPhones and your PlayStations and all of those equipments, they now have 11 lights out factories What's a lights out factory? A factory where you don't have to turn on the lights because there are no humans working in it. But what AI is now coming after is dematerializing things that you don't think about as physical. Credit cards are going to disappear. Credit cards are a 50-year-old technology. Yes, they've improved on some things, but it's an old technology. China went from cash, skipped the credit cards, straight to mobile payments. And the mobile payments just in China are more than all credit card spending in the rest of the world combined. And because of facial recognition and the phone and everything else, the fraud is infinitesimal. Can't even measure it. Yet if you're buying something online, the fraud, as you can see in the stats, is substantial. So you're going to see all aspects of finance completely change. And let me show you my favorite picture on this. This is outside of New York City. This is from 2011. This is UBS's trading desk. They want to be close to Wall Street, so the lag time on the computers, tons of people, and you can now rent that office because 100% of those people are no longer employed. All of that is just done by software. So the big change that we're seeing with AI is it's coming for the white-collar jobs. AI, ChatGPT is when most people first came to AI. I've been working in the field longer, but ChatGPT was the fastest technology ever to get to 1 million users. And the jobs that are going to vanish by country are huge. And this is taking out all other factors that will impact the economy. So on the one hand, you will see productivity gains for the company of 25 to 30%, but the number of workers will be dropping down. Here's the new workforce. So it's not just disembodied AI. You now have robotics that are amazing. And you will now see them branching into personal care, senior care, assisted living, all kinds of jobs, companionship, romance. The robots are expanding in ways that are absolutely unbelievable. And so the productivity gains are realizing, but the cost to society is a different change. This is hard to see, but these are all the jobs that'll disappear. So accounting, legal, medical assistance, all of that type of stuff. The bottom, when it talked about, was moving, right? Physical movers. And the safest job was predicted to be dentists. Makes sense. You know what that next slide's going to be. You can now have robotic dentistry, where nobody skilled has to be there. Now, this might sound strange for you, but there's a lot of countries that can't get dental surgeons or crowns or complicated root canals, and now it can all be done. I personally am not ready for that. But cooks and chefs and hotel cleaning crews and all of those things are changing very quickly. But here's what Europe and the rest of the world is not prepared for. AI is going to use 25% of your present electrical grid. That means the present electrical grid can't handle it. In the United States, 50 years ago, we had a nuclear disaster at a reactor called 3 Mile Island. No one got hurt. They shut it down. But Microsoft just bought it and the liability so they can turn it on to have enough energy for their AI. So you're seeing Apple and Google also going nuclear. Somewhere this electricity has to come from, and it'll happen. On the other side, there are fun uses of AI. There's a chain in the United States where you can go in and get your AI manicure. Pick your color, stick your hand in the machine, easy peasy. Police. spend 40% of their day writing reports. Now, since all cops wear a camera, the AI interprets what they were seeing and listening, writes a draft report, so the officer only has to make any corrections or detail changes. And a fun one, for those of you that have a Ring in your house, someone has now made an attachment that shoots paintballs at the people stealing your packages. Again, everybody's looking at these tools for different uses. In Japan, they're using it to control the workforce. And when I say control, I mean that word. There's a chain that wants to make sure that every one of their store employees smiles, the same type of smile to every customer. And so they watch them, they use facial recognition, and they give each employee a smile rating. And if you don't have a high rating, bye-bye, they'll give you something to make sure you don't smile, you lose your job. So, can AI be trusted? This is one that shocked me and many in the field. For the first time in history, a machine on its own lied. I'm not talking about made a mistake or got a wrong answer. It intentionally lied. An AI was given an assignment and it came across a CAPTCHA that it couldn't get past. But it knew from looking out on the web that there is a service for the blind that they can call a number and it'll help you get through the CAPTCHA. So the AI called that service, and the service, very first thing they asked the AI, are you a computer? And the AI said no. Now that sounds minor. If you're a theologian and want to study original sin or all those things, amazing concept. It lied to get to the end. The ends justify the means. But what then happens when it decides to lie and say those were your fingerprints at a crime scene, not somebody else's? Or decides to change medical reports to say, you know, you need a heart valve replaced. It gets into very complex issues very quickly. Now, a lot of this is being worked on, a lot of it will be resolved. And for all the flaws of AI, let me leave you with this thought today. Today's AI is as dumb as it will ever be. 10 years from now, humans will be at about the same intellect that we are today. AI will be in a whole different league. AI is also getting facts wrong. Ask AI to make a camping trip of having a campfire and going camping in your tent. It paints a beautiful picture of the campfire in the tent. Somebody asked Google's AI, is it okay to lock a dog in a car on a hot day when it's, 45 degrees? Yes. And they also asked AI to make German soldiers from World War II. And it was so nice to see what a diverse force they had. So it doesn't get everything right. What it also does is allows video to be changed. And today you can see some of the changes you can identify, but very soon you won't be able to. And that becomes an issue. It's become such a big deal that somebody came up with the perfect gift for a criminal. AI often gets toes wrong, gives them too many toes and fingers. So there's an AI tool that you can now wear, a sixth finger. So when the police photo shows you, you can say, wait a second, it shows 6 fingers. That's not me, that's a made-up AI. So we've gone from a text culture to a screen culture. And now we're going to go to a heads-up display. We're going to be able to see how to get somewhere. You're in a new town, follow this line to get to your hotel, follow this line to get to an Indian restaurant, whatever you want to do. But with AI now, you can look at that new car in the showroom and it'll tell you, you can't afford to buy the Tesla. Here's what you can afford, here's what your finances are. It can do all that thinking for you. And all the major companies are coming out with glasses over the next 2 years. You'll get to see them. And They'll make our world more connected. They'll solve a lot of things. And your apps will float in space. You won't need big screens. And you can watch a giant movie without having a giant apartment. It also will help older people remember which key is for what, where their keys are, all kinds of things to help us be more successful. So, during my lifetime, we've had 4 major transformations. The personal computer was an intelligent machine. But when the internet came along, we were finally able to connect to all of mankind's knowledge. Mobile allowed each of us to connect to everyone else. Fun fact, more people on the planet have phones than toothbrushes, which makes you glad that you're talking to them over the phone. Now, AI is going to have a higher intelligence than we have. It will get answers and solutions that we don't have the ability to answer the questions for. The biggest industries that are going to be changing will be dealing with energy, as I mentioned. So any source of energy will become a priority. As we move off of fossil fuels, that changes a bunch of stuff. Eventually, within the decade, energy will be close to free. Factories won't have workers, and it continues to change. And there's unintended consequences. So I live in Los Angeles, and that's a photo of the Google self-driving taxis. We have self-driving taxis on the road. There's no driver. But they were designed at the end of the day or when their battery runs low to go to this parking lot and plug themselves into charge. They were also designed that if they are stuck somewhere and they can't get, to eventually honk the horn. So every day, all of them show up at the same time and honk their horns for 45 minutes, annoying the entire neighborhood. They're looking to solve it. You now have big rig trucks on the Autobahn in the US with no drivers. So transportation is one of the most common jobs out there, and that'll be the first to go. Printing. So 3D printing changes everything. It allows you to have just-in-time inventory, part replacements, the ability to make pharmaceuticals in the battlefield, all kinds of stuff. So a fellow professor of mine printed one of the first 3D printed houses. It took 2 days. Imagine after a hurricane, a typhoon, a tornado, a flood, that you can instantly get people housed with no skilled labor in the field, just concrete going into the printer. But now you can have AI design amazing structures using physics and tying into these printers. But let's go back to the disruptor, and I want to tell you a great story about 3D printing and how a simple idea can have huge impact. Imagine, heaven forbid, that your child was born missing digits or a limb. Because they grow so fast, it would be cost prohibitive to get them an artificial limb. So some disruptors decided to 3D print simple ones, and they went to Disney and they said, can we get a license so there could be a Frozen arm or a Darth Vader arm or an Iron Man arm? So imagine that child that before was feeling less than, now everybody wants to play with Iron Man. It changes their whole trajectory of their life with that one simple application. And the proof is this amazing young woman who was a popular influencer on TikTok, born without hands. And what is she known for? She teaches teenage girls how to put on makeup. Mind blown. Want your mind really blown? Your doctor, doesn't matter what specialty, only sees so many cases in a lifetime. AI has seen everything. AI is 98% accurate on cancer. Between that and now being able to make custom biological synthetic drugs that match your DNA, most experts are saying cancer will disappear in the decade. All cancer. Breast cancer is one of the first ones to go. Now AI can see it long before any human could notice anything, because what they notice is pattern recognition. So getting cancer no longer has to be a death sentence. It can just be an outpatient inconvenience. They can identify Parkinson's 7 years before the onset, and so many other ones that I could do a whole talk on just medical. But I think what was the most meaningful is at the Olympics in Paris, a paraplegic was able to run with the torch. AI was controlling the exoskeleton, so could rise up from the wheelchair and move among his peers. I think we'll also see a change. The Olympics are worried about defining gender. When do you define what human and what robot is as they start merging the two? And you now will have, electronic devices in. So as I said, cornea, there are certain types of blindness now that you can now solve with AI. They don't see the way we see. They see more like an 8-bit video game. But I was part of a demo where a grandmother who was born blind was now able to shoot basketball hoops with her grandson. So life-changing uses. Skin tissue, everything. Now, what AI's now done is work with CRISPR. CRISPR is a gene editing. When we originally sequenced the DNA of the human, it took a decade. Now you can do it in your own home with a very simple sequencer, and now you can custom solve things. So, this young lady had leukemia. Using CRISPR and AI, leukemia was gone. She went from 3 months to live to going to have a nice life. The single largest source of carbon in our environment is cows. Cows produce methane. Cows fart. So somebody said, why? And the simple answer was the gut biome, when it digests foods, methane is a byproduct. So using CRISPR and AI, they've now re-engineered so cows will no longer make any methane. That's 9% of the greenhouse gases on the planet gone, thanks to AI solving a problem that we couldn't have solved. So data, that's what this is all about. Data gets your engagement. Data is what built Amazon and Netflix into giant companies, and that's what you have to become, data-centric, and let AI work with the data. And you have to learn to be more creative with your data. So, a little bit more about the AR glasses. So last year, there were 50 million pairs of glasses sold that came with one app, sunglasses. Use them so you don't have to see. Now imagine other apps. So there's a pair of glasses that you can now buy from Facebook, from Meta, for $300 that this young woman used. She is born blind, and she uses these glasses to go about and ask, what am I looking at? Where am I? I'm in the store. Where are the dog treats? Read me the ingredients. Her life has completely changed. And these glasses weren't designed for the blind. The apps weren't designed custom for the blind. People just are flocking and solving problems using these things. And it is absolutely amazing. She's known as Sadie the Blind Lady, if you want to follow her on social media. So if all these apps, and you're wearing glasses, or there are companies coming out with contact lenses, this is what your world can think about. But notice the street is green. If you go to London, they constantly tell you, look this way, look that way, so you don't get run over. Uh-oh, the street's turning yellow, and then the street turns red, so you know not to walk out in the street. In your business, you can walk around and look at equipment, and your eyesight, your glasses will tell you, this is too hot, this is too cold, this needs more stuff, this is making a sound that it shouldn't. And you can use it for events like this. I don't remember that person's name. It will now tell me their name. It will now tell me not to talk to them about this or that. So, great positive uses, but there's also the negative uses. Similar to the face and smile, how many baristas at the coffee shop pour how many cups of coffee a day? And how many aren't? Who are your hard workers? Who are your slackers? You can also turn any wall into a store. You can turn any store into an interactive game where they know what you bought last week. Here's a coupon to grab if you buy the different brand this week. So let's wrap up with the 5 things that I told you I would tell you to solve this. The book, and I'll be signing them later, came out of a sequel of my first book. And basically, I took a homeless immigrant and mentored him 1 day a week for a year. Gave him no capital, no business contacts, and spoiler alert, he went from homeless to self-made millionaire. How did he do it? Well, you're doing step 1 today, so I applaud you. If you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. Get out of your rut. Go places, mix it up, see how different industries do things. Steal ideas from one industry to your industry. See who's using the tools in some way that you haven't. Because in the near term, the companies that grab onto using AI will gain market share at the expenses of those that don't. And that becomes your advantage. The next thing is, most people put limits on themselves. If there's no limits on the universe, if everything's expanding, you can do whatever you want. And that's what you have to realize. You were told you weren't good at this, you weren't good at that, but that's not true. Now, everybody thinks of changing the world, but very few people think of changing themselves. So how do you get a growth mindset? How do you make these changes? And it starts with realizing that problems are the best thing you can have. Because all that an entrepreneur or business sells is solutions to problems. So if you have problems, you're halfway there. And every obstacle is an opportunity in disguise. Your favorite movie, your favorite song, your favorite book, your favorite clothes, your favorite product was all created by somebody that was too stubborn to stop. And no obstacle is so big that one person with determination can't change. So here's a trick, and this isn't tree-hugging mystic science, this is real science. Here's a trick to start that growth mindset. Every morning when you wake up, say 2 things. Today can be better than yesterday, and I have the power to make it so. Say it out loud while you're shaving or putting on your makeup. Why? Because what your brain hears, your brain believes. And hearing that will light up the synaptic nerves, have neurons race, and studies will then show that you will be more likable, more productive, more successful, a better lover, across the board. You're releasing the drugs that other people buy on the street. You're manufacturing on your own brain to make you feel better. And if you start each day with that positive mindset, that's the battle. And if you really want to be happy, solve for others. Happiness comes from solving for others. Solve for a few people, you have friends. Solve for 1 million, you become wealthy. Solve for 1 billion, you change history. You now have the ability to change history. So your success journey starts today. It starts whenever you commit to it. And as many other speakers will remind you, you're going to have to commit to lifelong learning. If I was your doctor and I told you I haven't learned anything since I left med school 35 years ago, would you go to me? Would any employer hire you if you haven't learned anything? So continuous learning is part of life. And it's the most exciting part because the world is going to be a completely new place. And each one of you have the ability to influence what that change is. Thank you, and I wish you great success.